You said you were at the Circus. What kind of acts or performance did you do?
So I was a fire breather and a stilt walker and a clown. And then I don't know, like I suffer from bad asthma, so apologies if I cough during this meeting. And I remember one day I came home and was like, I'm gonna go travel. So I literally packed a bag and went to Australia. And instead of going to university, I went traveling for a year. I went to Sydney, I went to the Olympics. I watched the opening ceremony of the Australian Olympic Games. Okay. And at that moment, I was like, I want to do this. Well, we were growing exponentially and we just won a 100 million dirham project. A very long story short is we got a phone call to say, thank you very much, but you're no longer needed. Like, you can remove everybody from Qatar. Like, you just watch that dream disappear and you watch the revenue disappear. You know, the money should have been in the bank account. We had spent significant amounts of money trying to deliver that project and we got not one single dirham back, not one single.
Hi, I'm Anish Ahuja, Director of Imprint Studio and host of a new podcast, Imprint of Success, which is all about having an honest, real conversation with successful leaders from different industries in a casual, relaxed environment that is at our Imprint Studio in JLT, understanding their challenges, their journey, their past, present, future, and their vision for 2025. This podcast will be available on our YouTube channel, Imprint Studio, my personal channel, Anish Ahuja, LinkedIn, and Spotify. Please show us your support, like, share, and subscribe. Our guest and speaker today is the CEO and founder of an experiential agency, Dan Bolton. Who is that?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on, I don't know, time of life. I think, yeah, there's been multiple versions of Dan, I think, over the course of a journey. And I guess I'm 42 years old now, I'm like 43 in a not too distant future. So I think there's always this constant evolution. But what is Dan today, I guess? Somebody who has achieved a lot, has been incredibly successful, and it's taken a long time to get to the point to acknowledge and to understand, and I think appreciate that success. And it's someone who is on a journey right now of discovery, of evolution, and of change. I think that's the biggest way to describe the Dan today. If you kind of want to know a bit more detail, Dan
I know this has been a crucial year for you.
I mean, it's been crucial. I think we'll probably get to that in the conversation, but Dan is a former circus performer. I used to work at the Circus a long, long time ago. I've had a career in the events and entertainment industry since I was 16 years old. So yeah, so I can't even do the maths now, but yeah, it's 20 plus years. What's that? Nearly 27 years. It's a long time working in the events industry.
Way more than half your life.
Way more than half my life. I'm having to do the math because let's get older now. But yeah, and came to Dubai 2007, was working with an events and entertainment agency at the time, started my own business in 2015, and has gone through a journey ever since, I think. Something which has been kind of very, very prevalent in conversation over the last couple of weeks in particular is I've been here a long time, 18 years being in Dubai. You see a lot changes, a lot evolves, the good, the bad, and again, I'm sure they'll talk about that. But it's a fundamental core element of my being, the city of Dubai and this country. Yeah, so I've spent more time in this country than I spent in my own previous country, essentially. So yeah, so it's been a journey.
You said you were at the Circus. What kind of acts or performance did you do?
So I was a fire breather and a stilt walker and a clown. And then I don't know, like I suffer from bad asthma, so apologies if I cough during this meeting.
And that's perhaps the reason.
I think potentially, yeah, because I was doing that for 10 years. So surely, there must be something in that history that has kind of helped create the asthma that I have right now. Yeah.
Okay, so clearly you don't do any of that right now.
No, I'm too old. I think you get to a point, so if you take it further back, my parents had these kind of dreams that I would be a fireman, a policeman, an RAF fighter pilot, an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, kind of, the dreams that parents dream of, the jobs that parents dream of because they want their children to be successful. And I remember one day I came home and was like, I'm going to go travel. So I literally packed a bag and went to Australia. And instead of going to university, I went traveling for a year. I lasted 3 months. I went traveling, I went to Sydney, I went to the Olympics. I watched the opening ceremony of the Australian Olympic Games. Okay. And at that moment, I was like, I want to do this. Like, it was amazing. It was the most life-changing experience to be in a room, not a room, in a stadium with, I think, probably like 100,000 people and watching this spectacular show. And I was just mesmerized. I was like, this is incredible. And I think I've always had that creative, artistic streak. I used to go to dance classes when I was younger. Then anyway, I came home and Faye did its thing and I joined the dance classes. The owner of an agency who ran them, she was like, I want you to go to Circus school and become a performer because we have all these projects that I'd like you to perform at. So I was like, why not? So I literally ran away with the circus and my parents were devastated, furious, angry. They were like, what are you doing with your life? This is not a career. Still very supportive, but very much like, this is not what we dreamed of. And then I became a booker. So essentially booking entertainment, booking talent.
One step back. There's a circus school. You
There's
got
circus school, yeah, in the UK. Yeah. Many circus schools. So yeah, because it's a viable career choice now, I guess, of performing arts. So you have different areas which are funded by government or funded by the National Lottery, funded by different entities, and there's schools that people can go to perform.
the perception has changed because that time you said your folks were not so keen on that as a
Massively.
career.
But you look at things like, I don't know, the emergence of Cirque du Soleil, for example, or Le Pearl, Le Show de Franco Dragone, and you look at the creative industries in general, they're much more viable career options now. Let me change that actually, not necessarily viable, because I think there's still a lot of insecurity with those type of industries and those type of jobs because of, it's a freelance market, your ability to earn money is dictated to by the availability of opportunity. Pandemic, for example, everything shut down, many people couldn't work. It wasn't the same for different industries. So I don't necessarily think it's a safe industry to be in, but I think it's a much more accepted industry now where people really are looking at the opportunities that the performing arts provide. The creative economy, the creative industries, especially in places like the UK, is one of the biggest industries in the country. It adds so much GDP to the economy. And there's many people that work in it. You're talking hundreds of thousands, all the way from performers down to technicians and everything in between. So yeah, so I did all of that, became a booker, did that for 8 years, worked on some of the most amazing events in the UK, and then came to Dubai in 2007, yeah, and continued my career as a talent manager and a talent booker. Also sometimes performing in Dubai, because at the time there wasn't that many performers, plus I needed to pay the rent.
Yeah.
I needed to pay bills.
And were you performing here?
So yeah, so I used to perform at Chi at the lodge.
Okay.
I don't know how long you've been here.
I was born and raised here. Yeah.
So if you go down to like Al Nasser, Pleasure
Oh,
Land,
yes. Yeah.
so
Okay.
there's
I
a
know,
place
I know.
called Chi, the lodge. So we used to perform there at Trilogy at the Madinat.
And you've always done fire breathing.
That's fire breathing, still walking in a clown.
Okay.
Yeah, you put me in a costume, I'll run around and just be an idiot.
And clowning around.
Planning around, yeah. But then it gets to a point where you're a little bit too old to do that. And also as well, you need like a viable career because you can't do that forever. So that's why I always had the two sides, which was being a performer and then actually managing talent, managing performers and working within the events industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened next? How did you become an entrepreneur?
Oh, I think I've always had this free-spirited type of personality. And I think it's very difficult to manage for an individual, not necessarily for me. I have my own challenges, but I think I'm not the type of person I can be employed. And I've always got to push. I'm always trying to innovate. I'm always trying to change. I'm always wanting more and more and more. I'm never really satisfied. So my previous employer when I was here, I think I resigned 10 times because I was always unhappy with the way things were. I was unhappy how they did things. It just wasn't the way that I would have wanted to do things. And I think it quickly became very apparent that in order to be successful or to have maybe a lesser stressful life, questionable, that I needed to do this myself. So I left that agency and then started up my own business. And then I was in the position where I could then dictate my own future. I could do things the way that I believe they should have been done. Again, not always right. But it allowed me the opportunity to go and become self-sufficient. I was no longer an employee. I was somebody that was actually chasing my own dreams and my own opportunity. I left that agency and then within 3 weeks, I had 3 employees. My apartment became my office and I essentially took all the clients with me. all the clients at that time wanted to work with me. I had relationships with them. So then naturally, I had a huge client base that decided they wanted to do business with me. So yeah,
And
it was wild.
you opened that time was the Dan Bolton Creative
So
Agency.
at the time, it was actually called Dan Bolton Consultancy. So it was essentially to be a consultant to the events and entertainment industry. The goal was to be freelance, essentially, just to be me as an individual, to be working with people to be able to deliver projects. However, so much work came to me at that point. I was like, I can't do this alone. I need people. I need someone to help me with the office, the administration, the accounting, the financing. So literally overnight, 3 weeks, it became a fully legitimate business. And I had no idea how to run a business and just made it work through lots of trial and lots of error.
Yeah. What were the hardships?
I think the hardships at that time, because the hardships changed throughout, like, what are we in now, 2024? So I've been doing this on my own for 9 years. The hardships change. The first ones were obviously funding. How do you start a business when you actually don't really have any money? I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any investors. So having things like, website, business cards, collateral, a trade license, an office space, like all of these different things, which are obviously very important to be able to run a business, they quickly mount up and you're just like, oh, how do I do that? The second hardship is then you quickly stop doing the things that you enjoy. I do the things I enjoy because I believe I'm good at them, which is, being out there meeting clients with the performers, being creative. All of a sudden, you then have to look at cash flow, you have to look at payroll, you have to look at legal, you have to look at contracts. There's two big sides to our type of industry, the kind of the creative and the operational. I kind of sit between them both, but I'm very much more the creative side. So then that people management, the operational management, the compliance, etc., has always been something I struggled with, always, from the day I started the business. So yeah, so learning quite quickly that I have to at least understand it, and I need to get people which are better than me to be able to deliver that on my behalf, was something which I learned quite quickly in the beginning. And then obviously things like chasing money, chasing payments, audit reports, like all of these things.
Okay. And then how did We Are Echo come along? And what are the three? I think you have 3 IPs.
Like, we're evolving, so we can definitely go into that. So it's when you ask the question about who is Dan, I'm really looking at chapters, because there's the chapter which was the Dan Bolton Creative Management, Dan Bolton Consultancy, and that was essentially up until the pandemic. It was a very small team. It was very entrepreneurial. It was very startup, and we were struggling in terms of trying to cut through and break through to do the type of projects that we've done ever since. Then the pandemic came. Our entire business was destroyed literally overnight because we lost all of our projects. We couldn't afford to pay people. I couldn't afford to pay suppliers. Our office was left empty for 9 months because we weren't allowed to work from an office. There were so many challenges within our industry, and we were purely just doing entertainment at that time. And many of our clients were like, we need you to deliver an event for us. And I was of the opinion, well, I don't want to do events because I'm competing with my existing clients. And that was the period leading up until 2020. But then when you lose everything, you have no option. There's no choice. There's nothing to stop you from achieving that anymore. So that's where Be Experiential was created. So that was founded. We founded an events agency during the pandemic when events were illegal, essentially. And we were one of the first companies to be able to start doing events again. We were working quite close with the government to be able to make them happen. And that's where that happened. That company boomed. We were growing crazy amounts because just event after event after event was coming through the door.
And you were the only sole owner, or did
Sole
you have
owner,
partners?
yeah, sole owner. I've got no partners. Still don't have any partners, just myself. Yeah. And then from there came conversations with a former business partner of mine at the time for Podcast Now. He was like, I need support. Again, an entrepreneur and a startup, very much of, I don't know how to do this. So I said, well, I'll give you help and support as much as possible. We helped fund the podcast studio when we did it here in JLT, and help support him build his brand and his team. And then on the back of that, more and more people asking for content creation, digital creation, storytelling, photography, videography, animations for the performances that we're doing. And that's where Curio came involved. So we had these 4 brands. that were all kind of independently doing a very similar type of industry or servicing a very similar type of industry. So it came from a period of soul searching where, like, after the pandemic, massively exhausted and questioning life. Why do we do this? I went traveling for 6 weeks, met a number of people along that journey, and kind of, I want to say, went on a bit of a spiritual journey of kind of evolution, of wondering, like, why? What are we doing? And that's where Echo came from. The original concept and the original idea was to provide this ecosystem of like-minded businesses that can support each other, and that can also provide opportunity to other entrepreneurs or other people that would like to kind of get into the business but not suffer the same challenges that I'd suffered in the beginning. You know, like cash investment or helping with branding, helping with website, just generally having somebody to talk to, because it's a very lonely place being a business leader. And that was the whole concept of Echo. And we were looking at how we could grow and build and make it much more sustainable. I think the reality is it was growing so fast and the ideas were so big and the change that we wanted to implement was quite substantial. I think it couldn't keep up with itself. And then looking back, you know, the layers of management, the layers of structure, the layers of system and process, we were constantly trying to fix things and constantly trying to add that system and process because we didn't have a solid foundation. And that's essentially kind of what was exposed at the end of last year, is by losing a huge project, losing revenue, looking at your pipeline, looking at your structure, looking at everything, being like, wow, this isn't working. It was just being camouflaged and hidden by the fact that we were being so successful in winning projects. But the minute that a project disappeared or projects disappeared, you were left exposed with, wow, this is not actually what it should be. And then that's been the kind of the journey ever since, over the last exactly 12 months today. Yeah, since we recorded. Yeah.
From what I understand, you've been on a repair mode. What are you trying to fix?
I don't think I think I'm in repair mode now.
Yeah.
I think the last 12 months has been spent dealing with survival, for sure. Dealing with how to release and remove. And that's a very painful experience, because when you start a business, the amount of money, which I'm sure you can attest to, and sacrifice that you give to a business, like it's everything, like everything. And you want it to be successful. There's no ill intention. And then you bring people on the journey, you provide for them, you want them to be successful as well. And then it got to a point where that just really wasn't possible anymore. So people resigned, we had to release people were terminated, etc. That's a very messy, very damaging
But what led it to that point? What is it?
finances, purely finances. So basically, it's a very long story, but we were growing exponentially and we just won a 100 million dirham project,
Okay.
which was a project we were doing over in Qatar. And we knew we were going to win the project. There was conversation happening. So you plan, you invest, you dream of what will it be like once that project gets underway. We mapped out our pipeline, we've mapped out our revenue, and this is in August when we win the project. So we kind of exhausted all of our cash flow during the summer.
But you had not won the project. You knew you would win it.
We had won the project. So we'd actually been given an official award. So we'd been given an award letter, we'd signed a joint venture agreement. We had deployed people on the ground in Qatar to deliver the project. And there's conversations happening with government ministers. We're pitching creative, like it's happening. And the conversations all revolve around the finances. You know, we need money in the bank on Friday. And I think at the time it was like 15 million dirhams needed to be paid on Friday. And that 15 million, or, you know, whatever number it was then to pay for the project, the cash flow. It was also to help the cash flow from over the summer, because again, I'm sure you know, summertime in the region is very, very quiet from a business perspective. Yeah. So you watch your bank balance go down and down and down. And then the winter time is when you generate your revenue again. You kind of catch back up again. Yeah. I think where the two kind of mismatches were, is we were growing so fast, we didn't have the cash reserve in the bank to manage any potential problem in the future. Okay. I'd not really thought about it, to be honest, because we were constantly so successful and winning projects and things were happening. I didn't think about the bad times. I ddidn't think anything bad could happen.
But what, the payment didn't come through?
So the payment never came through, and the local partner stole the contract. Because it was a Qatar project. We were the collaborative agency, and everything was awarded, everything was contracted, and then a very long story short is we got a phone call to say thank you very much, but you're no longer needed. Like, you can remove everybody from Qatar. So I was like, what the hell? So that was a very painful journey around trust, dreams, ambition, security, things I should have done differently, things I should have done better, things that were outside of my control. But, these are people which I've known for a long time, have a relationship with, we have a contract with, we are delivering a project. And then to be told, this is a very short version, that you're no longer needed, we don't want you here anymore. Like, you just watch that dream disappear, and you watch the revenue disappear. Like, the money should have been in the bank account. We had spent significant amounts of money trying to deliver that project, and we got not one single dirham back, not one single. Yeah. And then you question lots of life choices. Should I have been stronger? Should I have been different? Why did they rip me off? Did they rip me off? Like, there's a lot of things that you start to question. So to get back to where we were going, literally that moment, I remember there was like, there's no money. Like, the money's gone. Literally, we'd gone through summer. We thought we had a project. We were spending because we thought we had a project. The project disappeared. And then it's like, okay, so where's the rest of the business? The Q4 is like, oh, there isn't any. We'd spent so much time and energy focusing on this project that we'd kind of neglected everything else in many ways. So we got projects coming in, bits and pieces, but the reality is we had overheads, we had cash flow, we had stuff. We had liabilities that we needed to pay, and we just couldn't keep up. Literally couldn't keep up, and cash flow was a problem since then, up until this point. And once cash flow becomes an issue, then everything changes. Everything. Like, your relationships with your suppliers, your relationships with your team, your relationships with yourself, with your partner, with your family, like everything. I think it's the one single biggest thing, which has been the biggest learning in the journey of business. I was never driven financially. I've always been driven by opportunity. And I think that serves a purpose to a certain point. And I think then you really need to be driven by finances, because I never want to go through an experience like we've been through for the last year, for myself and for everybody else affected, because it's just so painful. So I think moving further forward, like the learnings that I've been going through on this journey, great to have the success, which is why I asked the question, what defines success? Great to have the success, great to have the visibility, great to have the name, the prestige, the projects, but it actually means nothing if you don't have cash flow, like nothing, because all of those relationships, the reputation, the respect, the loyalty, it disappears, and it disappears quickly. Like, it literally disappeared overnight. I remember walking into the office and I was like, because people had heard, first of all, we won the project, everyone was celebrating because everyone was so happy, and they worked really hard for that project. Then it disappears. I was at my friend's wedding at the time in Spain, and I was coming back to tell the team, and everybody was messaging me. Everybody knew what was happening, and I tried to control the narrative as quickly as possible. Impossible. You can't with anybody. And then obviously the industry starts to hear, people find out, people message, people call, what's happened? Oh my God, we've heard. And it becomes a big drama, and everybody loves drama. So I remember coming into the office to explaining to the team, I was like, I'm really sorry, the projects are happening, it's causing a massive issue. I want to keep your jobs, I want to pay everybody, I need time. I need to figure out how to fix all of this. And I remember the conversation, I couldn't even breathe, I was so emotional. I think my colleague had to step in and help kind of like take over the conversation. And I just knew at that point that it was going to be a painful journey, that it would be a lot of change, a lot of evolution. And then, everyone tells you they're going to stick around, they're going to help. But the minute that there's a financial challenge, or that there's the fear that you're not going to be able to pay me, people obviously look at themselves. Of course, they have family, they have rent, they have people in the Philippines or India to look after. They may have not been happy in the job anyway. Now this is a perfect excuse to leave, whatever. And it was just like one after the other of people knocking on my door saying, I'm leaving. And I think that was also quite hard at the beginning to take, because these were friends, colleagues, people that, like on a personal level, regardless of people's opinion, like I sacrificed many salaries of my own in order to make sure that we could keep this business together up until that point. So watching people leave was tough, but I knew it had to happen. I allowed it to happen because obviously in my brain, I'm thinking, well, I can't afford to pay people. The more people leave, the easier this will be for everybody. I just wish it wasn't a painful experience because it's very difficult for the individual, for myself as well, and for everybody else affected. Yeah, so you go through all of that, you downsize a business, which is essentially where we're at right now. We've consolidated everything. I think the dream and the vision is still there, but it's going to be much smaller. It's going to be much more controlled by me in particular. I think one of my biggest regrets in life and challenge and business is too much delegation. I think really accountability rests with the business owner and the leader of, any organization. So yeah, so really bringing it down to its core value, its core essence, making it much more streamlined, making it much more digital in a way, like not having physical assets and infrastructure. And, the parking in JLT is horrible. Every single day, people are complaining to me about the parking. We spent like 250,000 dirhams a year just on parking.
Really?
Yeah, for the parking passes and the paid machines and whatever. So we've just decided just to go completely remote. We work in an industry now where we can go to people's offices, we can work in coffee shops. I've got people working in India, in the UK, South Africa, etc. So we don't need a physical office. So we've looked strategically of how can we minimize all of our overheads, whilst at the same time then looking at the opportunities and the things that we want to do, consolidating the brand, consolidating the business. The DV name is removing itself. And I think that's also a personal thing for me because I don't believe a business can be just one individual. At some point, I might get married, have family, pass away, life will evolve. And I think having my name associated to the business has always been quite challenging because it's always everything comes to me and it's impossible all of the time. So yeah, so we're rebranding everything under the B creative entity, and then we'll have entertainment and events and content all within it. Yeah, so lots of change and restructure. So then you said about repair.
Compare, realign, rebrand.
Yeah.
That's what you go by, right?
Yeah, kind of in different orders. So I think the realignment has done. We've had to realign everything. And again, painful, taken way longer than I would ever expected. And I think now we're into the kind of the rebrand and the rebirth, so to speak. So this is where I need to mend relationships. I need to pay people. I need to have dialogue with everybody. I need to go out. There was a time when I had such bad anxiety that I physically was scared to leave my apartment. And that was caused by the stress and the challenges and, the perception that you put on yourself of everything that's happening.
This is all within the last one
All
year.
within the last 1 year. And I think I'm kind of at the point where I can start to face the world again. I've kind of become a hermit for a year, had to figure my own things out. And now it's the repair time. Now it is actually speaking to people again. I've shared the story a million times, but sharing my version of the story and having dialogue with people who've been affected by this or who haven't, and kind of just repairing the foundations of my being within this world, and then rebuilding the business, but doing it differently. I don't want to have 85 people employed, which is what it was in August last year. I want it to be small, agile. I want to collaborate more. I want to work with like-minded people. Just do it different. Yeah.
Did you need professional help when you were going through anxiety?
Yeah. So multiple different things happened. So yeah, I was seeing a therapist anyway before the challenges. Then when they hit, I couldn't afford the therapist. Then I found someone who's an amazing, I want to say business coach, but she's a little bit more, I would want to say holistic. It's not necessarily just about being a business leader. It's about the individual and about spirituality. And it's about how people are feeling. So an amazing lady called Nuna, who I would strongly recommend bringing onto the podcast if you ever want someone. She helped me. She was incredible. I remember calling her in October last year. I couldn't speak. I was just crying, sobbing. And I spent 1 hour crying to a person I've never met before. And it was needed. And it happened. And then she looked at everything. She mapped everything out for me. We did sessions. We broke it down. We looked at me as an individual. What is my beliefs? Who am I as a leader? What are my self-perceptions? Because at that moment, everything was around, I'm a failure, I'm unsuccessful, I'm hated. Oh my God, why did this happen to me? It's kind of a little bit victim orientated. And I was thinking about it when I was driving here in the car. You know, it's a period where I was going through like crazy depression. I didn't really fully understand I was in depression at the time. It was just gray and miserable. And it was almost like that cloud was following you around. And it was relentless, relentless. So she helped me massively. I downsized my circle massively. I have like maybe 3 or 4 very close friends now compared to the maybe hundreds that I thought were friends previously. They've been a massive support. Other business leaders, having conversation with them. I had a great conversation with a guy last night who's gone through something similar, and his feelings and my feelings were exactly the same. And it's like just understanding that people do go through this because business is not easy. You can relate because you feel very alone. You feel very much like it's all on me, but then actually other people have and will go through similar for different reasons. And then my family, like really having that support structure with them. I think unfortunately, especially with men, you go through periods where life can become somewhat intolerable and can be quite challenging. So I had to go home to the UK to convince my parents that I wasn't going to self-harm or commit suicide. And that was a very, and how would I say, like not enlightening, but it was a very raw experience to be actually able to sit down and discuss with family and close friends, like, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what's happening. And for them to be reciprocal and to be able to understand and appreciate and to be able to help navigate those feelings. Yeah. Business is wild. It's very, very wild. So yeah, so that's been the kind of the journey over the last year. And I think now the summertime helps to be in a position where you kind of just like let it all out. It's been a year and now I'm looking forward to that future of like, well, getting back out there, rebuilding, reconnecting, reestablishing myself. I think the last year was the foundation of who I am, what do I want to do? And then, yeah, now we get to do it.
Okay. So what's next?
That's a very good question. What is next? I think step by step, first of all, repairing the damage that's been done is obviously vital. You know, I think I've done the repair to myself in a way, my immediate circle, because they've been impacted by this massively, massively. And now it's to be making sure that, first of all, you can pay people, you can have direct conversation and dialogue, you can explain what happened, because people love to have a different opinion. So I think that
It shows online because there are a lot of,
shows online.
yeah, and the non-payments and all those, the disgruntled.
Of course, which is fair. It's like the challenge, I'm not laughing, by the way, I just, you know, I'm a bit nervous. And it's difficult because I get it. I would probably do the same thing if that was me in their situation. The challenge is it's just there's nothing I can do about it right now. It's like if I don't have the money and I don't have the means to do it, regardless of my intention, I still don't have it. Like there's just nothing possible. I think, could I communicate better? Yes. Could I done things differently? Yes. Have I made some choice in the last year that maybe could have been different? Yes. But this is all hindsight. And I think when you're going through something, again, from a conversation I had yesterday, all you can do in life, whether you're a leader, a person, whatever, they're the same thing, is you can just try your best. Like the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, as long as you're trying to be a better person and be the best, then I think that's all you can do. Do people have an opinion on can that be different? Yes. Do I have an opinion on could I have done it different? Yes. But the reality is, again, it's all subjective. So rebuilding, reworking, redoing, really doing it differently. I think that chapter of life, whatever that was up until that moment, has closed. Now the next chapter really is much more about what I want to do for the future and who I want to be and what I want my business to be. I think when you grow a business and you have lots of outside or internal people within it, your business quickly becomes something, if you're not careful, I don't think I was careful, it becomes something that you no longer want. And I remember there was times when I'd go into work, I'd be like, I hate it here. If I was an employee, I would probably have quit my own business. Very difficult when you own it and you're liable for everything. But I got to a point where I was really unhappy. And I think now I've understood what made me unhappy in that time. which was doing things I didn't enjoy. It was maybe being influenced by different voices. And I think I'm much more now comfortable and content with who I am as an individual and what I believe and what I feel. People might have a different opinion on that, fine. It's nothing to do with me. Whereas previously I would have taken it very personal. So now I think that's the foundation of how to move forward. Do I still want to do the biggest projects in the world? Of course I do. Do I still want to do amazing events? Of course I do. I will probably do this career, this industry until the day I die, which hopefully will be a little while longer. But I think for the next 20 years now, it's really about taking the last 20 years of life
And the learnings.
and the learning. I mean, you learn every day. I think and take that and then shape that into the life that I want. You know, I recently got engaged, so I want to get married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to have children. Like, there's a life ahead, which is not just the events industry. And I think, again, having my name associated to the agency, being such a prolific character within the industry, I think that has to end in order for me to have the life which I actually truly want, which is to be successful, to be financially successful, to be able to fix everything that needs fixing, but then to have a life outside of a job, a business, an industry. You know, my parents are getting older. I need to spend more time with them. My niece is now...
Are they back home or here?
Yeah, Manchester. They're all in the UK. And, you know, I've, again, been here, 18 years. I've missed a massive period of our life together. So I need to reconnect. I need to do some stuff there to kind of readdress that balance. And I have a great niece that I want to spend more time with. I want to get back in the gym. I want to be healthy. I want to travel. And then, yeah, do different things. Yeah. It is interesting how it's taken this situation to get to that point.
It's the experience and the
It's the
self-realization.
experience. Yeah. And, you know, I believe fully in the power of the universe. Like, things happen for a reason. I knew I wanted something, but I was so resistant against it. I was allowing certain things to happen. I think the universe did what it did, and I'm not taking accountability for it. Of course I am. But I think I was put into a position where I was forced to change. And then with that change, then you have lots of realizations about what wasn't working, what you didn't enjoy, you know, the things you did to people. And now it's the moment to readdress all of that and to do it different. Yeah.
Do you think Saudi is going to be a good potential
Yeah.
market for you
Yeah.
with how it's going?
Saudi is an interesting one. I struggle with Saudi, if I'm completely honest. I really like it. I really like the people. I really respect the ambition and the dream and the vision around it. I think I'm also very proud that the events industry in particular is playing such a pivotal role in that change. Because, you know, women couldn't drive, you know, there was no movies, there was no entertainment, there was no cinema, there was no music. You know, I got chased down the street one day in 2008 because I had tattoos. I remember is it Motala, the religious police were chasing me with the stick because of how I looked. The events industry is at the forefront of that change. And you can look at the way that they're bidding and going to win the World Cup, and they've got the Asian Games and the Expo and whatever. So our industry, although it doesn't save lives, has the ability to change. Why do I struggle with it? It's just a bit of a race to the bottom at the moment. I think that's the biggest challenge because everybody from around the world is looking at it as this golden goose opportunity and that it's a cash cow. And, you know, there's companies which are taking jobs, taking opportunity, whatever. I would like to see it established, which it will do eventually, like a real ecosystem and a real, I don't know, like, what do you call it? Like, ecosystem, probably the best word, of creativity, of innovation, of performance, of whatever. So that's why I kind of struggle with it a little bit. It's still a challenging market to work in. You know, people don't fully appreciate and respect and understand what creatives do. It's kind of like what Dubai was like 15, 20 years ago, where it's very much about procurement, nuts and bolts, building the biggest, the best, the most, producing the biggest, the best, the most. It still needs it needs to find its authenticity, which I think it will do quicker than here. I think it will do it better than here as well. I think Saudi has such a different makeup, a different way of doing things. And it's primarily Saudis. You know, there's the population shift is very different for what it is for other GCC countries. So I think Saudi is an incredible opportunity. It's very challenging. I think it has to go through a correction. I think at the moment, everyone sees it as this kind of the most amazing holy grail of opportunity. I think that will crash. And then I think there has to be like a solid foundation of real, tangible, professional, good quality stuff that happens. Because right now it's just a race to the bottom for everyone.
What is your take on AI?
AI, wow, I wasn't expecting that question this. Do you know what, like, I was so against it in the beginning, so against it. And the reason why is like, I didn't believe that technology should essentially replace a human. I came from a place where I was very human centric and people are obviously such an important asset. I then went on a course to understand Midjourney and AI and ChatGPT. I use it for everything now. And it's actually, does it replace humans? Yes, of course it does, you know, because I can design something in 10 minutes that would maybe take 1 or 2 people 2 or 3 days. So there is a conversation around all of that. But from a business perspective, it's efficient. I also get to be creative. I get to put my ideas into a system and then to engage with that system to create what I'm dreaming and what I'm envisioning, if I can say it. And a lot of people still have this perception that it's cheating or that it's kind of like, you know, being lazy and sloppy. But actually it's a very efficient tool to then also be able to kind of direct your attention and focus elsewhere. So like right now, like, I use it for everything. My pitches, my presentations, like everything's AI.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned that you have a remote team in different countries. What do they do in these different countries? Like, what are they specializing in, or how do you recruit?
So, well, what are they specialized in? So I've got my managing director is based out of the UK. So she used to be here and then she moved back to the UK for her own reasons. We didn't want to lose her because she's amazing. So yeah, she's doing all of our kind of, I want to say, administrative operations and looking after key clients and making sure the teams are doing what they need to do. I've got people in India that do proposals. So yeah, so they look at all of our presentations, our RFPs, they build them, they get everything ready for our key clients. And I have a technical and creative team based out of South Africa that look at all of our technical production. They do budgets, they do designs, renders.
Okay. And they work in-house exclusively for you, or?
So they are, I wouldn't say exclusive, but there is agreements and relationships to be making sure that there's a very collaborative, you know, preferred kind of relationship. I keep them so busy that they don't all have time to work on other people. Our partners in South Africa is another agency. So yes, we collaborate quite a lot of different projects with each other on that one. Yeah. And then because of the nature of our business, you know, we've got costume designers or creatives that might work out of the US or South America. And we've had people doing stuff from Colombia previously. So yeah, it's very dynamic, it's fluid, it moves around quite a lot. How do we recruit? That's a challenging one at the moment. Personal networks, personal connections. However, there's so many people looking for work. I don't know, I just feel like everybody's looking for a job or looking to change or looking for a next opportunity. So my LinkedIn gets bombarded constantly. Like literally there'll be hundreds of messages every single day.
Really?
I made the mistake recently of posting, I was looking for an assistant and I literally got, I want to say like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people message. Like it was insane. Like I physically couldn't keep up with the messages. But then on the flip side, I've had really bad experiences with recruiters. I don't think they fully, I'm going to speak about Dubai. I don't think recruiters in Dubai really understand recruitment. I think there's lots of people doing recruitment, but finding that match with people is very challenging. Yeah. So yeah, finding people is difficult.
So what does be like in 2025?
Wow. So I had a conversation with someone yesterday who really inspired me. I'm really excited about our collaboration. Be at the end of 2025 will be a kingdom. It'll be a different kingdom. It will be reestablished, respected. It will have repaid and fixed pretty much everything that it needs to do. Maybe not everything, but most of it. And it will be delivering some of the biggest projects in the world. Yeah, within the next 18 months. And it will be structured, systems, processed. accountable to everything and solid. It'll be solid. It'll be a very small team of incredible people.
And what about you personally? Where will Dan
Good question. At the end of 2025 or in general?
end of 2025? Let's say 1 year from now.
So going back to Nuna, she did this exercise with me and she looked at where will you be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years and 20 years. So the 2-year one, which will be at the end of 2025, I just want everything fixed. I kind of want to be in a place where like I don't have to think about the challenges that we've gone through for the last few years. So remending relationships, repayments, restructure, fixing all of that. I need to look after my health. I think I need to just kind of like readdress the balance a little bit. And I mean that physically as well. I think you get to a certain age, things start to not work properly. So I need to go for checks. I need to look after everything. I'll be planning my wedding for sure, because that's planned for 2026 in my brain anyway. And then hopefully on that journey of like you're thinking family and stuff. Yeah, with a solid team of people, less stress, more opportunity, more ambition, and a clear vision for what I want to achieve. Yeah, and that's by the end of 2025. I think I spent literally the last, I want to say 4 years, it feels like just randomly walking. I didn't know where I was going or what I was heading to. I was just walking somewhere, and that's taken 4 years. And I think with everything that's happened, it's got to the point now, it's like, now I know what I want. Final.
Sometimes it's a process that takes long, but
It's a process. Yeah, because you have to go through the journey. You have to really understand, did I think of leaving? Yes. Did I think of quitting the industry? Yes. But these were the things I was thinking about before, this time last year. If I was thinking back to like April in 2023, I was planning my exit from the industry. I was like, I don't want to live in Dubai anymore. I'm bored, but I don't enjoy this. It's not nice. And then things happen, and then you kind of like find your why again. And then you understand, well, what am I good at? What do I want to do? And it makes sense. It finally makes sense. Yeah.
sounds great.
Great.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
This has been an amazing podcast.